Hey everybody, it's Mr. Cooney with continuing in Hamlet Act 4, and we are starting from scene 6. As you can see, scene 6 is just barely a page, and then scene 7 is a little bit longer, and that'll finish up the act. So I'll obviously put those two together. So we left off with Laertes witnessing Ophelia's insanity and, kind of losing it over that, and still angry at the king. The king assuring him, I can explain, and then we can let you'll see that I'm not responsible. We'll let the fault in the axe fall where it may. And of course, he's already planning on that axe falling on Hamlet in England. Okay, so we go to the next scene, another room in the castle. Enter Horatio and a servant.
What are they that would speak with me?
Seafaring men, sir. They say they have letters for you.
Let them come in.
Aye, sir.
I do not know from what part of the world I should be greeted, if not from Lord Hamlet.
God bless you, sir.
Let him bless thee too.
He shall, sir, and please him. There's a letter for you, sir. It comes from the ambassador that was bound for England. If your name be Horatio, as I'm led to know it is.
Horatio.
Okay, so the ambassador that was bound for England is, of course, Hamlet. So it's a letter from Hamlet to Horatio.
When thou shalt have overlooked this, give these fellows some means to the king. They have letters for him.
Okay, so we're reading this letter from Hamlet to Horatio, but the guys that brought him the letter apparently have other letters, or at least a letter that is to be given to the king. Okay, so Hamlet is telling Horatio one thing, and then we don't really know what's going to come in that letter to the king.
Now we were 2 days old at sea. A pirate of very warlike appointment gave us chase.
Now, I don't know about you, but I was just thinking to myself, you know what the story could really use? That's right, pirates.
Finding ourselves too slow of sail, we put on a compelled valor. In the grapple, I boarded them. On the instant, they got clear of our ship, so I alone became their prisoner. They have dealt with me like thieves of mercy, but they knew what they did. I am to do a good turn for them. Let the king have the letters I have sent, and repair thou to me with as much haste as thou wouldst fly death. I have words to speak in thine ear, will make thee dumb. Yet are they much too light for the bore of the matter. These good fellows will bring thee where I am. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern hold their course for England. Of them I have much to tell thee. Farewell. He that thou knowest thine, Hamlet. Come, I will give you way for these your letters, and do it the speedier, that you may direct me to him from whom you brought them.
Now that's really weird. And as many parts of Hamlet are random. So they're chased by a pirate while they were on the way to England. They were captured. In the grapple, Hamlet ends up on their ship. He alone becomes their prisoner. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, of whom Hamlet still has much to tell to Horatio, are still on their way to England, but presumably without Hamlet. And then they're supposed to deliver some letters that say, hey, execute this guy who's not with them. So the plan's not going so well so far. We'll see if we hear from Hamlet more. And of course, don't forget there's letters for the king that Horatio is going to apparently deliver. All right, here we go, scene 7.
Now must your conscience my acquittance seal, and you must put me in your heart for friend. Sith you have heard, and with a knowing ear, that he which hath your noble father slain pursued my life.
It well appears. But tell me, why you proceeded not against these feats, so crimeful and so capital in nature, as by your safety, wisdom, all things else you mainly were stirred up?
Oh,
okay, so sounds like as we catch up with this conversation that the king has already explained to Laertes that it was Hamlet who was responsible for this, but of course Laertes is questioning why have you not seemed to have done anything about this?
for two special reasons, which may to you perhaps seem much insinuate, and yet to me they are strong. The queen, his mother, lives almost by his looks, and for myself, my virtue or my plague, be it either which, she's so conjuncted to my life and soul that, as the star moves not but in his sphere, I could not but by her.
Put it off on Gertrude, real
The
nice.
other motive, why to a public count I might not go, is the great love the general gender bear him, who, dipping all his faults in their affection, would, like the spring that turneth wood to stone, convert his guilts to graces, so that my arrows, too slightly timbered for so loud a wind, would have reverted to my bow again, and not when I had aimed them.
And so have I.
Okay, so when he says the general, he's talking about the populace of Denmark and what they think of Hamlet and how that kind of enters into his hesitation on a more obvious extreme punishment.
A noble father lost. A sister driven into desperate terms, whose worth, if praises may go back again, stood challenger on mount of all the age for her perfections. But my revenge will come.
Break not your sleeps for that. You must not think that we are made of stuff so flat and dull that we can let our beard be shook with danger and think it pastime. You shortly shall hear more. I loved your father, and we love ourselves. And that, I hope, will teach you to imagine.
My lord.
And now, what news?
So maybe just when Claudius was going to finish explaining to him what's going to happen to Hamlet.
Letters, my lord, from Hamlet. This to your majesty, this to the queen.
From Hamlet?
What?
Sailors, my lord, they say. I saw them not. They were given me by Claudio. He received them.
Laertes, you shall hear them. Leave us.
My lord.
High and mighty, you shall know I am set naked on your kingdom. Tomorrow shall I beg leave to see your kingly eyes, when I shall, first asking your pardon, thereunto recount the occasion of my sudden and more strange return. Hamlet.
That's really going to throw Claudius. By naked, he means destitute, like groveling back towards him, right? I shall beg leave to see your kingly eyes, when I shall first, asking your pardon, recount the occasion of my sudden more strange return. And then, of course, Claudius is like, return? Well, obviously something got messed up here, right?
What should this mean? Are all the rest come back, or is it some abuse and no such thing?
Know you the hand?
It is Hamlet's character. Naked, and in a postscript here, he says, alone.
As in, not with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, right?
Can you advise me?
I'm lost in it, my lord, but let him come. It warms the very sickness in my heart, and I shall live and tell him to his teeth. Thus didst thou.
If it be so, Laertes, as how should it be so, how otherwise, will you be ruled by me?
If
Aha, here we go. You see where Claudius is headed now, at least in a general sense, right? Easy. Despicable, but easy.
so, you'll not all rule me to a peace.
To thine own peace. If he be now returned, as checking at his voyage, and that he means no more to undertake it, I will work him to an exploit now ripe in my device, under the which he shall not choose but fall. And for his death, no wind of blame shall breathe, but even his mother shall uncharge the practice and call it accident.
My lord, I will be ruled. The rather if you could devise it so that I might be the organ.
It falls right. You have been talked of since your travels much, and that in Hamlet's hearing, for a quality wherein they say you shine. Your sum of parts did not together pluck such envy from him as did that one, and that in my regard of the unworthiest siege.
What part is that, my lord?
A very ribbon in the cap of youth, yet needful too, for youth no less becomes the light and careless livery that it wears, than settled age, his sables and his weeds, importing health and graveness. Some 2 months since, here was a gentleman of Normandy.
Okay, so a gentleman of Normandy. He's bringing up some random guy for some reason, a young guy. And Normandy would be, he's a French guy, right? Okay, so what about this French guy?
I've seen myself and served against the French, and they can well on horseback. But this gallant had witchcraft in. He grew into his seat, and to such wondrous doing brought his horse, as he had been encorpsed and demi-natured with the brave beast. So far he passed my thought that I, in forgery of shapes and tricks, come short of what he did.
A Norman what?
A Norman.
Upon my life, Lamore.
The very same.
I know him well. He is the brooch indeed, and gem of all the nation.
He made confession of you, and gave you such a masterly report for art and exercise in your defence, and for your rapier most especially, that he cried out, "'Twill be a sight indeed if one could match you, sir."
Okay, so he's buttering up Laertes here by not just by complimenting himself, not just by complimenting him himself, but relating the supposed effusive compliments given by this French guy, who was an especially good swordsman, that he complimented Laertes and said, yeah, he said he thought you were the greatest, and he'd like to see the guy that could match you. So when I say rapier, that's like a fencing sword.
The scrimmers of their nation, he swore, had neither motion, guard, nor eye, if you opposed them. This report of his did Hamlet so envenom with his envy that he could nothing do but wish and beg your sudden coming o'er to play with him. Now, out of this.
What?
Okay, so, and then upon hearing those compliments, Hamlet became very jealous, according to the king.
Out of this, my lord.
Laertes, was your father dear to you? Or are you like the painting of a sorrow, a face without a heart?
Why ask you this?
Not that I think you did not love your father, but that I know love is begun by time, and that I see in passages of proof time qualifies the spark and fire of it. There lives within the very flame of love a kind of wick or snuff that will abate it. And nothing is it like goodness still, for goodness, growing to a pleurisy, dies in his own too much. That we would do, we should do when we would. For this would changes, and hath abatements and delays as many as there are tongues, are hands, are accidents, and then this should is like a spendthrift's sigh that hurts by easing. But to the crick of the ulcer, Hamlet comes back. What would you undertake to show yourself your father's son in deed more than in words?
You hear how he's asking that? What would you be willing to do? How much did you love your father? Right? In other words, whatever he's going to propose to him, he's making Laertes feel like, well, if you love his father, if you love your father, then of course you'll do whatever it is I'm about to ask you to do regarding Hamlet.
To cut his throat at the church.
Ooh.
No place indeed should murder sanctuarize. Revenge should have no bounds. But good Laertes, will you do this? Keep close within your chamber. Hamlet returned shall know you are come home. We'll put on those shall praise your excellence, and set a double varnish on the fame the Frenchman gave you. Bring you in fine together, and wager on your heads. He, being remiss, most generous, and free from all contriving, will not peruse the foils, so that with ease, or with a little shuffling, you may choose a sword unbaited, and in a pass of practice requite him for your father.
I will do't.
Okay, so there's going to be a bunch of swords, which are sometimes referred to as rapiers, but here referred to as foils. Okay, so they're going to go get them, right? They're going to have the swords out. Laertes and Hamlet are going to have a duel, right? But if you look at your footnotes, okay, so a baited versus unbaited foil. A baited foil would have a flat tip on the end because when you have fencing competitions, they're not trying to hurt each other, right? They're trying to score, by touching the other person. But if you have a sword that is unbaited, that means it has a pointed end. And Laertes, unbeknownst to Hamlet, is going to be able to get an unbaited sword, which would enable him to actually stab Hamlet.
And for that purpose, I'll anoint my sword. I bought an unction of a mountebank so mortal that but dip a knife in it. Where it draws blood, no cataplasm so rare, collected from all simples that have virtue under the moon, can save the thing from death that is but scratched withal. I'll touch my point with this contagion, that if I gall him slightly, it may be death.
Let's
Okay, so not only is he going to have an unbaited sword, but he's going to put poison on the end of it. So if he even scratches him, you can see how this might even be a little bit out of character for Laertes, right? It's like Claudius he's piggybacking on the anger and the need for revenge that Laertes has, which is understandable, right? I mean, Hamlet did kill his father for no apparent reason.
further think of this. Weigh what convenience, both of time and means, may fit us to our shape. If this should fail, and let our drift look through our bad performance to a better not assayed. Therefore this project should have a back or second, that might hold if this did blast in proof.
And a backup plan to that even. Okay, what's this going to be?
Soft, let me see. We'll make a solemn wager on your cunnings.
We're going to bet.
Have it! When in your motion you are hot and dry, as make your bouts more violent to that end, and that he calls for drink, I'll have prepared him a chalice for the nonce, whereon but sipping, if he by chance escape your venom stuck, our purpose may hold there.
Okay, so if you can't even scratch him with your unbaited poison-tipped sword, I'll have a chalice of wine, that they use instead of Gatorade, to have, here, Hamlet, have a drink, and then that'll finish him off eventually.
How now? Sweet queen.
Uh-oh.
One woe doth tread upon another's heels, so fast they follow. Your sister's drowned, Laertes.
Drowned? Oh. Where?
Now, how, where, and why would Ophelia have drowned?
There is a willow grows aslant a brook that shows his hoar leaves in the glassy stream. There with fantastic garlands did she come, of crowflowers, nettles, daisies, and long purples, that liberal shepherds give a grosser name, but our cold maids do dead men's fingers call them. There on the pendant boughs her crowned weeds clambering to hang, an envious sliver broke, when down the weedy trophies and herself fell in the weeping brook. Her clothes spread wide, and mermaid like a while they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old tunes, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and imbued unto that element. But long it could not be, till that her garments heavy with their drink pulled the poor wretch from her melodious lay to muddy death.
Alas. Then she is drowned.
Drowned. Drowned.
Too much of water hast thou, poor Ophelia, and therefore I forbid my tears. But yet, it is our trick. Nature her custom holds. Let shame say what it will. And when these are gone, the woman will be out. Adieu, my lord. I have a speech of fire that fain would blaze. But this folly doubts it.
Let's follow, Gertrude. How much I had to do to calm his rage. Now fear I this will give it start again. Therefore, let's follow.
Oh, Claudius, are you having a hard time? Poor Claudius. Ophelia's come. They're dropping like flies in here, guys. Polonius is gone. Ophelia is gone. However, I'm sure everything will turn out fine in Act 5. Anyway, one question you should be asking yourself, having had this described to us by Gertrude, who, I don't know, saw the tape from the Elsinore Castle security camera or something. I don't know how she's able to describe that without being able to go and stop her. But regardless, how would you categorize Ophelia's death? That's important for their religious ceremonies, right? When someone dies, what kind of funeral she would get. So it's kind of a gray area right now. All right, that is the end of Act 4, and I will see you soon.